Would anyone start recording something on Saturn hour? Well, the thing is that this is evening and I don't know if the rulers here are correct. The ascendant is pretty much close to my ascendant. Midheaven is close to my midheaven. So, and the moon is in Cancer, applying to in Pisces. So this is the time of the recording. Venus in Gemini, Mercury retrograde, Sun conjuncting Rahu, which has been causing a lot of turmoil. So, I don't know. Jupiter in Aries, Chiron in Aries, Lilith in Leo, and Mars in Cancer. Pluto in Aquarius, of course. So this is the chart of me recording this. And now without further ado, let's turn. Want me to talk about the eclipse first, maybe? Let's see. So we're going to the month of May. Full moon in Scorpio. Well, I know I did videos about the eclipses, but why not? This is the May eclipse, which of course is pretty much the main event of the month, but it's not the only event. So I'll cover as much as I can, and then I might continue the rest of my astrology in another video. It's going to be on, first of all, it's going to be on May 5th. So this is in my region, perhaps a different time or a bit date in your region. I'm in the Middle East. So adjust this. The moon is going to be in Scorpio, Sun in Taurus, 14 degrees respectively on the axis. The nodes are going to be on 3 degrees Taurus and Scorpio respectively. Why is that important? Those things matter. For example, we had the April eclipse, and the nodes were basically in my 3rd and 9th. And one family member, so we need to make sure there's a problem with the passports and so on and so forth, which is 9th house related. And I did a charity neighborhood, and because it was placed not too far from where they take the garbage out, then they wanted to give the building a report for me put food and clothes for people who needed before the holiday. It was both the Jewish holiday and the Muslim holiday. So I was like, okay, let's do some charity, and that got me into trouble. And the eclipse was in my 2nd house. So 2nd house is possessions, but this was outside in the neighborhood, and the eclipse was squaring Pluto. And Pluto is also a dump hole, garbage can. So funnily enough, the problem with the taxes, we'll see how it will be resolved, was about things being put next to the garbage in what they saw as breaking of the order in this Pluto in Aquarius, right? So the problem had to do with Pluto, so disruption about the time that I did this charity. And I did this before I went to my family, so this was 3rd house. And so the nodes, even though the eclipse was in my 2nd house, the nodes were in the and so it had to do with my possessions, okay, creating disruption, the square between the eclipse, okay, creating disruption. And I predicted something will be, but I didn't imagine it's going to be that bad. They sent somebody, especially on the Muslim holiday, because they don't evacuate the garbage, and I especially then, so that it will be 4 days for people to take whatever they need, and I put some food there and clothes and so on. And the reason I did it in this way is also for decentralization reasons, because welfare does not really help. Charity organizations do not really help. They don't reach the people, and I said I want to reach the people. So you can understand how that was considered by authorities an act of rebellion. Like, I don't go to your welfare, I don't go to this, I go straight to the people. So this was second house and third house. Okay, Taurus and Scorpio was also activated by the disruption of the eclipse, and so this eclipse, it's not just if you have something in the middle phase of Scorpio and Taurus. Also, the first decan. What do you have in the first decan? And Aquarius, what do we have in the first decan of Aquarius? We have Pluto. And Pluto is within orb. Nodes. Okay? So, it's a 3-degree orb. Pluto will be squaring the nodes on this. Um, so for me, it's the Pluto square Pluto. And very impactful. I have the Sun in Taurus in 15 Saturn in 12 degrees Scorpio. Pluto, my original Pluto in 0 degrees Scorpio. Yeah, so the first decan of Pluto's in Scorpio are be, and this is already popping up because it's easy for me to see, because for me it's also Pluto square. But it's not just the middle decan that I look at, but also the people with Plutos and at least 0 to 6 degrees of Scorpio are going to be highly impacted. Not only are these people going through their Pluto square right now, mine is exact, but other people a bit before, a bit after. Um, but also, the Pluto is squaring the Pluto, and Ketu is with Pluto. So, the range of things that we can expect. Ketu is purging. Okay. So, um, finding it's difficult to deal with the desire to concentrate power um, during this eclipse in some way or matter of fashion. Okay, for example, I live in Israel. We do not have access to get passports. No internal affairs offices work. Um, so if I'm also half Dutch, if I want my birth certificate, which I will need if I need to move. Also in Netherlands, a lot of problems, a lot of time to wait, waiting in the municipality. So these things that for me is ninth house related to power centralized. It cannot be that you have to be dependent on the state to travel. And it's not, the state is not helping with organized crime and all that. It's a part of it. So there are going to be themes where centralized power, either you are in a situation where centralized power um, is purged, or maybe you could apply to centralized power and now you cannot. Power isn't just in decentralized, and necessarily a bad thing, but it's also a crisis, because in the beginning, like the place where you felt powerful, you now no longer feel that way. It's a new way to think about power. Okay. Um, Another thing that can happen, of course, perceptions of Pluto and Scorpio, what you thought about Pluto, are being at odds with the current Pluto. Now in the sign of division. Maybe you thought, and I did a video on the eclipse. I did a video. It had 241 viewers, but they didn't view much of the video. I was so surprised. It had a spelling mistake in the title, which I didn't fix yet, and 241 views. Was named Eclipse Wisdom, and the wisdom was with an O instead of an I because I made a spelling mistake. And much like this video, I woke up and I started to record. And I remember I clearly said Pluto. Pluto, it was a change in perception of Pluto. Yeah, there was also square in the of April, now square in the nodes of the eclipse. If you see Pluto as hidden power, no. Pluto is something that is hidden and then it is composted and then the light comes out. Okay? It illuminates on things. Um, so the Pluto square anyone generation in Scorpio that relied, and I suggest if your Pluto is middle decan and decan of Scorpio, then even if your Pluto is time to start to freshen up your views on this planet. It's not a planet of hidden power. It's the planet of composting things and shedding light, and so it regenerates and rejuvenates things. Um, yes, it can be the case that people who are very connected to power as hidden force. Okay, Scorpio. Scorpio is also the great exposer. Okay, it exposes things um, that are hidden. Okay, the nature of Mars, of the nature of Pluto, it's not a still stagnant. It's a fixed sign, but do not expect things to stay hidden for longer than they will. Um, and so, a lot of people that concentrated on old forces of Pluto. And Pluto has to do with our sexual organs. It has to do with blood. So blood rituals. I'm not saying anything, bad. There are many ways. Blood rituals, things to do with reproductive system, of whichever type. Okay, sex of reproductive system, sexual power. Okay, is decentralized. Um, Also, the way we've been doing psychology, psychiatry. Why am I saying psychiatry? Because Pluto is still sextile in Neptune, and it was sextile in Neptune for the Pluto generation in Scorpio. Neptune is drugs. Okay, so psychiatry and psychology were very much together. It's like you go to the psychologist, and then he sends you to the psychiatrist. And then the only way that people had available to them to treat them and or to deal with a crisis in their life was it's okay to seek help, but you gotta take a pill um, or a shot. And interestingly enough, just this day, I saw a person who was asking, should I take a shot instead of pill for psychiatric drugs? And the shot was for 3 months. I told him clearly, if it takes 3 months to take the stuff, the substance out of your body, that means that if God forbid something is wrong, uh, 3 months is good enough time for you to be in the grave. And another thing is that the medical care is being held back. This is praxis. The medical care is being held back from people who suffer from any side effects of any treatment. Okay, so just when a person has to rush to the ER, a good treatment is being held back from them, unless it entails taking more pills. Why? Because people can class lawsuit pharmaceutical companies and they win these lawsuits, but we still have this composting affairs with psychoanalysis, psychology, and its troubles. Psychology und jeder krank of them. um, okay, and every ailment of the field. And Neptune. So Neptune can be drugs. Neptune can also be psychedelic drugs with Neptune, Pluto, all these things. So perhaps what you've been relying on needs to be composted. For those of you who are on medications, it's very likely that I'm not your doctor, but I could easily predict that you might need either a change in medications, completely change in medications. For some people, maybe new medications. I don't know, but also for some people, purging medications that they've been taken for issues of power abuse. Okay, so people who are sexually hurt or psychologically hurt or hurt in the medical field might be purging this. Yes, we may be purging certain psychologists, certain detectives, because the eclipse is with Ketu, and so it can be both with the moon in the middle decan, so people with the sun in the ascendant or moon in the middle decan, maybe famous detectives, famous psychologists, um, famous Scorpio related figures. We might be purging them out. The focus is less on that. Or, yes, there can be deceased people, absolutely. And the first decan. So, the first decan, for the people who are ascendant moon, yes, they can be. Um, it's a very Mars oriented. So also armies, generals in the army, um, even people who aspire to great knowledge. They can be why scientists? Because the Mars term of Scorpio is related. I don't remember the nakshatra, and I don't know if I got it from Carpiel, that was from Vedic astrology, or from someone who did arts on the decomposting couple, if it was Carpiel. But anyway, this mention or this deacon or this nakshatra is very much associated with the to know everything about everything. Okay, I have Pluto there. I can very much relate. Um, and so, scientists, people who challenge the status quo, um, people who desire deep knowledge, yeah, we might purge them. Like you said, both with Saturn being in Pisces, that's my first house, and with this combination, I might be one of these. Not, but um, yes, it can be. Um, it's something that I don't outrule. Just hope for the best. So, very potent eclipse. Do not ignore Pluto square in the nodes. Sun. Well, in Taurus we have Uranus, we have Mercury, we have the Sun. Um, Jupiter is still in Aries at this point, 27 degrees Aries. This eclipse is applying to trine Mars in Cancer and 21 degrees Cancer with vertex. And Mars is squaring Jupiter, applying to square Jupiter. Um, and Jupiter is applying to square Pluto. So it's not square. I've seen just the Twitter person who writes about digital coins that posted this T square. Was actually not a Bitcoin post, but it's like the thought there can be a war at this time. Yes, it can, and it will perfect later in May. I think he said 20 May. So yes, absolutely. Um, but this eclipse might already bring the disruption that will perfect in the T square. Okay, so usually we're waiting for the after eclipse season. I'm not saying there can be nice astrology before 20 May, but the end of May is not looking that easy to deal with. So, and we have Saturn separating from a sextile to the nodes. Okay, and I interpret the sextile as it can be support from certain um, completion. Saturn can help you in Pisces, can help you be more compassionate or dedicated to compassion, because Saturn's dedication, Pisces is compassion. So you can be more compassionate towards yourself and towards others in this eclipse. Um, it can make a person more at peace with death, basically. Okay, at peace with death. Saturn is also ruling fear, that is true. But with the sextile to the nodes, it can make people more at peace with the changing of events. Mm, so, should I do the 12 houses? Well, full moon eclipse is lunar eclipse. Scorpio is about letting, and Mars is in Cancer, so letting go of the waters. Um, I think Marin Altman said emotional release. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. Emotional release. And I think Lada pointed out that the um, the moon is the people, so the eclipses are more felt by the people. With Mars in the sign of Cancer that is ruled by the moon, I haven't seen the entire video, so maybe she said that as well. Um, I just didn't think I will do my forecast, so I started watching people's videos. So yes, my prediction is that there can be civil unrest, not by the merit of Gemini, but by the merit of Mars, the ruler of this lunar eclipse, and this interesting reception between the moon and Mars. Um, and Mars is also conflict, and so this conflict is between the people and the people. Okay, it's not the Gemini social, you know, social affairs or social upheaval, social unrest, but it is the planet of severing ties, and particularly severing ties with the unjust. Um, being in mutual reception with the people. Okay, the sun rules the people on a mundane level, and so there can be joined forces of army and the people, because Mars is also militant people. Um, they can be, with the sun in Taurus. The sun is applying to sextile this Mars. Okay, there's an applying kite shape here. Um, and applying the kite shape, I think it can either be something almost happens this eclipse, and then it happens when the kite shape perfects, but it perfected before that. So this is definitely eclipse that is at the aftermath of something because it's also full moon, it's bringing into fruition. But also there is, it's not an unfinished. It's because the kite would be perfecting before the moon applies here. It's kind of an in between. So there is this moon in between states. Okay? Because when the moon is perfecting its trine to Mars, it's actually later. Okay, it's in the last decan of Taurus of Scorpio. But when the moon is perfecting its trine to Saturn, okay, and we see the sky shape is not exact because Saturn here is squaring the nodes, is sextiling the nodes, and Mars is sextiling Uranus to be particular. It's a very interesting thing. It's something that I don't know how to delineate, but I understand that there is an in between states here. Something is in between states um, of completion. It's one of the last. I think it is not the last eclipse on Taurus Scorpio. It's one of the last. So, right? Let's check this. Okay, that's a lot of info. That is eclipses 2023. Should say 2024 by now, but okay. Yes, on October we have another one. And I want to look at it because so this would be 28th October. So this going from May eclipse to October eclipse 2023. And this is supposed to be the last eclipse on the Taurus Scorpio axis. But here it's interesting because the nodes, my relationship planets are targeted in this couple of years so much so, and I'm like, I haven't found my love of my life, twin flame, or whatever they call this. I don't know what is this about, but okay. Um, and here the moon will be on my Venus and Rahu literally on my 2 degrees away from my Mercury ruler of the seventh. But okay. Moon will be, wanted to say moon will be on Venus. Moon will be in the first decan of Taurus. Also lunar eclipse here, right? Partial lunar eclipse. With Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, Mercury direct, Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and the nodes on 20, the Ketu will be with Spica. Okay, 1 degree from Spica. Yeah, Ketu will be 1 degree from Spica. And Pluto will be back where it was in Capricorn, be in 27 degrees Capricorn. So we're going to have another, it's not just another switch, it's another swift move of Pluto on the US Sibley chart, Pluto return. Starting this triangle here between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. So Uranus is about to trine Pluto. It's a very exciting chart. Not an easy one, but definitely exciting. Venus will be in Virgo. The fact that Spica will be with Keto is interesting to me because this eclipse, Aries, in Aries was with Rahu. Okay, so Spica is more elegant, eloquent. Okay, it's the merchant wisdom of communication. It's understanding that anyway, we all need to live by these waters. So let's shush the differences and meet, like, not shush the differences, but express our needs in an eloquent way. Aries in Aries tells Pika, darling, you are ableist, not everybody is able to speak in that way and to advocate for themselves in that way. And still, they do not need to suffer tyranny. Okay, because Aries is squaring Pluto. Um, this tells us that certain advocates, certain judges, certain people who speak of people of the word, even advocates for humanity, we can, like, we can let go, which is another. I'm not very much associated with the rights of people who are not represented in an elegant way. That was something that I used to do. Um, that type of elegance is not being emphasized. What is being emphasized is more direct communication that can also be assertive, also can be aggressive. It's more of an Aries communication. And Mercury here with Scorpio and Mars. Okay, so deep words that it, it's going into the depth of the wound and speaking up from there. So very, very powerful, but yet Mercury speaks closer to Ketu. Mars, the Sun, and Mercury are closer to Ketu than to Rahu. So this is the eclipse where we have with Rahu in Aries, but its ruler, the ruler of Rahu, closer to Ketu. Um, and Venus applying to oppose Neptune. Venus in Virgo, so Venus is practical in Virgo. People say it's fallen in Virgo. She's practical. She's not thinking about how to meet her sensual needs. She's more thinking about um, paperwork. What needs to be done? What service need? Um, and with the application to a retrograde Neptune, there can be a sense of ideation of the that Venus is doing in the world. But Venus is also ruling Ketu. And this tells me that the type of women who are Venusian in that way can be purged. Okay, they can retire or they can also die. Um, so women writers, okay, women musicians. Venus is also a musician. We might be losing some of those, okay, with Ketu. Um, and the moon, the first decan of Taurus, which is also Mercury related. So a lot of um, revelations, even about things associated with this decan. Okay, I have Venus there. So we will discover things. We will also be letting go of old perceptions, and will also on a mundane level might be saying goodbye to certain types of writers, advocates, people of the word. You know, this has been happening with Saturn in Pisces. Um, we lost we lost some authors, but and I don't understand exactly the delineations. I know one of them had Pisces Sun, but it's like maybe Saturn on Pisces, depending on the nodes as well. Um, Series, we're letting go of a lot. We're saying goodbye to a lot. And now you have to look at the houses. And in this case, I will do. I will do the 12 ascendants for the 12 houses. So you can take it as whole sign to Placidus, then you look at more than one ascendant. So let's say you have ascendant 29 degrees of Scorpio. Okay. If you look at Placidus, you see that Scorpio is both your first household sign and Placidus with the 29 degree, and um, your 12th house. Okay. So you're going to be looking at ascendant Scorpio and ascendant Sagittarius. And for this eclipse, I believe it is not terrible to look at these things. Okay? If I understand that Placidus Scorpio is also my eighth house, I understand a lot of the things that I'm experiencing in a different light than if I understand it only as my ninth house. Um, so that is a tip for how to read this horoscope. So this is the eclipse of 5th of May. Let's begin with the ascendant Scorpio. So is in your house. If you are of the Pluto generation, this is going to be particularly big for you. Being in the middle decan of Scorpio, and to a lesser degree, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant are also impacted. Sun and Moon, sorry. It's going to be an emotional ending, literally put, but because it is the first house, it both means that it can either mean that you end it, and you may end it with a certain worldview, certain guru, certain teacher. You may sever ties with certain guru, certain teacher, because Mars, okay, the ruler of Ketu, is in the ninth house for you, or maybe somebody from abroad. By the last decan of Cancer. Okay, there's something emotional that's ending for you there. Stellium involved with this, something you're letting go of, something, some emotion that you have. Also, it's not necessarily negative because Scorpio is also emotional baggage. Maybe you've had baggage towards this person, and now you're actually forgiving them. Okay? This is something that you need to understand because Scorpio is not just grudge and revenge. Maybe you've been holding something even for 9 years, something that happened even 9 years ago with this teacher. Um, and it can also be because Taurus is your seventh, then Aries is your sixth. It can also be someone um, that's ruling your sixth house. Okay, maybe a job, maybe this, maybe that, or maybe a job to do with a degree. Maybe you had a job or a service that you did for the academia, and now you're like, I'm retired or I'm severing ties, and it's a very emotional ending for you. What is emphasized, what you're doing it in favor of, is your one-to-one relationship, maybe even your marriage. You must take into account if that is the case, then you must take into account the passage of the nodes. So right now, for the next uh, 6 years or so, no 6 years, for the next 9 years even, um, you will be doing more home hobbies related things, tending to your health, maybe even having babies, caring for your family. Then you will be doing academic, professional work things, depending on the chart. Okay, if you have Rahu in Virgos, then I don't count on you being too much far from the scene. But for temporary while, you could be a bit far from the scene because you will tend into your home environment. And if you are a Scorpio to a lesser degree, then you already know, especially ascendant. When I talk about ascendants, I talk about the houses. So this will express in this way for you. If you are of the Pluto square generation, it can very well be that what you previously thought your source of power is being decentralized, things are being exposed, and it's more of letting go. Or maybe you were studying, maybe you were like me, you healed from, you dealt with a certain trauma and you said, okay, I'm going to study. And now you're actually tending to relationships, you're actually tending to, for me, it's not the case. I've been tending to relationships only in academia. It didn't work out so well. But now you're tending more to your one-to-one partnerships. And because of the passage of the time, I see this more as the sixth house is not so much as changing workplace. It's more like taking a part-time shift because you're having or adopting a pet. If you're dealing with trauma, maybe you will adopt eventually a pet that helps you to deal with this trauma. Um, and do more things that you like. Okay, on with the years, do more things that you like. Okay, in 4 years or so, and then hopefully that's not going to the grave, but it can be growing your home and redesigning your home, um, and changing the neighborhood, your skills, your work, and back to your first house with Rahu there. So now the emphasis is less on you. It is a good time if you are becoming a parent. It is a good time for not the eclipse, but it's a good time for thinking about the conception of a child. That pretty much describes this passage of, oh, I'm going to, have labor, part-time job, tend to my health, then children, okay, play with the children, do more fun things with the children. I know it's ideation of what it's like to raise children. Then the house has to grow if we have more children. Then neighborhood changes, my daily active, my siblings, the relationship with my siblings who take care of the house. And then my income has to change, has to go here, has to go for their school, for their this, for their that. So this is a good passage, this is a good thing to do. And that would mean that you have to say goodbye to certain sort of power centralization you have that help you to keep yourself together. So it is a great emotional ending. Someone is no longer your teacher, no longer your guru. You end ties with them. You focus on your partner, not your gurus, not your teacher, not your studies, not your traveling abroad. Now, creating real relationships that's durable in you, and those relationships that can lead to family. Or alternatively, it can mean forming certain partnerships. It can also be romantic, and partnership that nourish your health, because the Chiron in Aries here. Okay, those partnerships that nourish your health, your well-being, and relying on this part more in order for you to be healthier. Okay, but you've been so much self-reliant that you need to, how does say, release your butt cheeks. So you may need to release your butt cheeks, literally. Um, so that can be the case, and so you can have a pet, helps you grow, you care for this pet, and you have more joy in your life, more fun in your life. while going through this grieving process over something that thing. Ascendant Sagittarius. So the eclipse is in your 12th with Ketu there. Rahu is the focus. Now, here a couple of things can be. Um, First of all, it depends on what Pluto generation you are, because that would mean if you're having Pluto square, if you're having Pluto sextile, which can mean you learn to be, if you're in the Pluto's, it's Sagittarius, now you learn to form a healthy relationship with power. Um, so that can be the case for you. And if you're Pluto, the beginning of Pluto Libra, then you're also in the more harmonious relations with power. And for you, it means that you might bring, if you are pregnant, or you might get pregnant, especially with the sun in your sixth house, you might get pregnant, or you might bring a baby. Maybe this is labor for you. Okay. Um, Ketu is in the 12th. Now, Ketu is in the 12th does not mean you don't visit the 12th. But this means that if you visit hospital, it will be for giving birth this time. Can you see the 12th and the 6th related here? Okay. Um, Now, depending on what you have in Scorpio, is Ketu in your 12th house? Rahu in your 12th is more susceptible to stuff, unless Ketu is naturally in your Scorpio house. And because the moon is in your 12th, so you can have deep psychological, deep emotional understandings that lead to severing ties with certain traumas, emotional traumas that you had, even around birth or when you were born. Um, Letting go of mental ailment, letting go of captivity. If you've been, in a way, ostracized or isolated, you're letting go of this now in favor of more service for the world. And your health is very much highly accentuated. It can be that you have been having a mental breakdown and now it is becoming physical. Okay, this is one of the worst cases where a mental issue is becoming physical, but then sometimes it leads to diagnosis. Think about people who have fibromyalgia, God forbid. People who have fibromyalgia, usually they were not believed until it got to the physical. Some of them are not believed even in the physical. And what is the trauma? Is usually not being believed for atrocities that were done against you. So that can also be the case. It can also mean you adopt a new pet um, around this time. And dreams can play an important role in this release. Ascendant Capricorn. This is happening in your 11th house. You're losing a certain position in society. Instead of that, you're focusing on what you love doing and on your children or on having children. You're no longer in the eyes of society, and now it's time to tend to your children. Venus is in the last degree decan of Gemini. She's sextiling Jupiter in Aries. So this rules your children and career. So it's not going to be your career so much. But it shows your children affect your career. Um, Gemini is your sixth. Your children affect your health in some way. Maybe you grow healthy thanks to intervening is an interference by your children. Um, you grow more healthy, but your children play a significant role, a very significant role. They have been throughout this whole eclipse cycle. You had to tend to your child more. You had to um, not be so much in the public eye as you used to be. Or, and it's also dreams and goals versus hobbies. So you have to do more hobbies. You have to do more hobbies than, dreams and goals. And then those hobbies can, within 9 years, become your dreams and goals. So you need to know which Pluto generation you are. Pluto squaring the nodes, there will be disruption. And that's general for this eclipse. So it's due to a certain disruption that you have to tend to your children, and there is there's a power issue going on. Okay, and what is power issue but composting? Somebody becomes compost. Okay, and that somebody is signified by your second house of skills and income and expenses. Okay, maybe you want to save money, but your child needs help, and it affects your health. And that is due to certain Jupiter. Okay. Um, yeah, so your second house of income, of skills, is being accentuated by this Pluto squaring the nodes. Perhaps you needed to gain a new power, okay, to gain a new skill, but this is only the beginning. It's a 20 years cycle. Ascendant Aquarius. This is going to your 10th and 4th house. So at this time, you need to take a step back volitionally from your career, because fourth house, you don't want to die, you know, especially if you are in the ascendant of the first decan of Aquarius. Um, the middle decan will feel more the emotional release of this. You're letting go emotionally from something to do with your career, um, and that has something to do with children. Maybe your children affect your career in some way. Maybe it's a father figure, mother figure, and you need to tend to home more so than before. I don't see it necessarily because of an ailment or anything like that. It's just your body is going through changes though. But I don't see it necessarily as ailment. You know what I mean? Maybe you want more vitality even. You want to, when I was taking a break from the academia, I noticed I was writing on the question of the body mind in epistemic eyes. And I'm like, here I was taking amphetamines for studies, which I needed. It's not abuse of drugs. Um, and taking a look at the body mind question and not doing anything with the body, not learning with the body. Okay, so you can experience even something like this with Mars here in your fifth house of hobbies. Maybe you want to be more, you have to let go of certain hobbies that are related to your career. So you may have a career that you really love, and again, it's not that this is the end of your career, it's more like the cycles Right now, your career takes less of a spot than your home. That can also be due to grieving. The worst cases, it can be you're losing someone. Of course, worst cases, you can die. Yes, because fourth house. But um, it can be loss. Here, squaring the dots can be loss that leads you to tend to home more. Or the loss of someone makes you look at things and say, okay, what am I taking with me to the grave? I really, really liked doing these things, but what am I taking with me to the grave? What's my legacy? Okay, fourth house. What is my legacy? What am I leaving after me? What truly makes me happy? What truly makes me happy? Is it just what I do for fun? What I do for a living? Or is it just something deeper? And this is something that is affecting your body and has been for a while. So I'm not sure what it is because your health house is, yes, of course, it can be health related because the sun is ruling Leo. So by the merit, but more solar eclipse. Maybe had something happen in your solar eclipse in Aries that affected your body, affected your health. Okay, sixth house by the merit of solar eclipse. Maybe you had that affected, and now you're thinking, what am I taking with me to the grave? And it's not necessarily doom and gloom. It can be actually a certain sort of, a bit of a mental crisis that you feel also in your body. So you may experience physical symptoms um, and, in the nervous system. And that affects you really on all levels of being. So it's a very important event for you. And it dredges at what's the deepest path, what is the deepest truth or deepest form of being true to my path, because your ascendant is your path and Pluto's going through there, and Saturn is in Pisces in your second. Okay, so you're being asked to be more compassionate with you. Okay, Saturn is ruling you. Pisces is compassion. You need to be compassionate with you, with so regarding mental health, your physical health, um, and that will be perhaps even the form to with the years, or in about 9 years, you will do career in a way more elevated. Okay, so that can mean you're starting a certain crisis that will transform you, so that by the time that Rahu is in your 10th house, um, you will already be doing things very, very differently. Okay, you will already be treating and your legacy, your home, your something is changing there. Ascendant Pisces. So this is my ascendant. This is happening in your ninth and third. With your ninth being with Ketu. Now, it doesn't mean that you will not be abroad. Okay, this is important. When I had eclipses on my ninth and my third in a Mercury perfected year, in a second house perfected year, my Mercury was opposing my Pluto in the ninth. I was in Netherlands. Okay, I was traveling. It was a bit of a refugee in my own country, um, but that was the case. Okay, and I have their Saturn that's ruling my 12th, so refuge, exile. So it doesn't mean that you don't travel, or it doesn't mean that you don't study, but it doesn't mean you come to purge something. If you travel, it's something that you're going to be letting go of there. Okay, you're going to be letting go of somebody, either you traveling abroad, or it can also be with this, that, which was what happened to me, that you're abroad, and this is something that you would not predict, but your abroad is becoming your neighborhood. Okay, and not for everybody. For some people, you're graduating from school, you're coming back to your neighborhood after traveling abroad. You're leaving a certain religion or worldview that you've had. Most of you, this is what will happen. For some of you, exactly with Keto, what was abroad is becoming your local neighborhood. Okay, and this is important to remember. If I look at what happened to me with the last eclipse, that was, I think, also on Pluto, definitely the one on Algol later that was on my Mars, yes, absolutely, was that um, I was basically a sort of a refugee in my other homeland, and that was abroad from this homeland, from Israel. But back then, that was a neighborhood. Okay, so Amsterdam was the local place for me back then. I was in shelter, so Nederland was the neighborhood. And it's a flat land, okay? Taurus here land, a lot of cows in Nederland. Taurus rules cows. Only now I understand that. A lot of cows there was, so flat land, well, a lot of grass, so nature. A lot of grass, literally. Netherlands is known for weed. I'm not so much into this, but it's always the Schumacher walking naked. Like I could smoke free on Netherlands, but I don't care for smokes. Um, so this can also be the case for you. What was abroad becomes your neighborhood. And if so, maybe there will be cows, maybe there will be sweet food. In Netherlands, it was crazy. I had to separate, I had to go to an Orthodox organization that were separate, that their food regime was kosher, so they were separating dairy from meat because I wanted to absorb at least some iron, and all the time the food would come together, which was okay for me to eat it, but I wanted also to absorb vitamins. So that can be the case for you. So either you're graduating from school, graduating from something, graduating from a religious institution or training, um, no longer with, like, religion is not going to play that much of a big role in your life. You're adding something, but again, remember, this is a cycle. There is another eclipse in October. The Rahu will already be in the eighth house, but yeah. Uh, so there is this cycle, and again, it depends on what Pluto generation you are. Pluto is squaring these nodes. There is this a bit just a crisis leading to. So if you're ending studies, there can be even a bit delay because Pluto is on Saturn sign, so there can be a bit delay. Maybe it will end only on October. Um, but maybe it's another semester. It's like that you want to end something, but it's another semester that you need to tend to. Um, in any case, this abroad thing is something that you love. This academic thing is something that you love. So it's ending of something that you did for fun too. So ending, this tells me that I made a mistake with Aquarius. So back to Aquarius ascendant. Cancer is your sixth house, so it is very much health related, unfortunately. Okay, but it can also mean that some health issue that affected your career is ending. Um, and yes, it can also mean you're having a baby, so you're staying at home more. So, yeah, that's that's definitely health related. So I can like it. I take back my not health related. It was a mistake. I started in the wrong house. Mercury retrograde. Forgive me. So yeah, and for Pisces, something you did for a hobby uh, that was related to something that you study or was related to something even spiritual. Um, there's a bit of an ending there, change there. Um, Either you're not going to do it anymore or you're going to do it now in a different way that accentuates more Venus. Gamification perhaps can be an issue for you. Maybe it's something you did as hobby and studies becomes a business. Okay, no, I've been getting that a lot. Um, and that of course affected my expenses. So that Aries ascendant. Aries ascendant, Scorpio is in your eighth house. Taurus. So for you, your money comes more from work, basically. And Taurus being the second house, so business, your path. Maybe you're entrepreneur, maybe you're opening a new business that has to do with technology. And maybe you had investments and now you're investing in yourself, in your own business. So expenses, investments, um, you're less reliant on a partner. So this can be a good thing for you. You're less reliant on a partner, more self-sustaining, more and this is a process, and that also steers a certain emotional ending. So fourth house. In the worst case, yes, it can mean that somebody dies and now your income is the inheritance from them. Yes, it can mean that. Um, but it's very likely to mean that you can no longer rely on a significant other or on grants or something like that, and you begin to earn your money from your own business. That's something that I see here. That's probably the case. And you could be working with the neighborhood, with the people, women in the neighborhood. You could be joining forces with them or local business. Um, Jupiter comes to you, so maybe tourists. Jupiter rules your 10th, right? No, Jupiter rules your ninth, sorry. So if you are a woman, maybe during the eclipse you met somebody. This can also be the case. But you're more self-sustainable. Good news. Okay, but it might be a crisis around this. Okay, maybe a crisis. Some grant that you rely on, you cannot rely on. Then you open a business, and you're very frustrated. But that can be a successful business. Ascendant Taurus. So more focus on you, less focus on your relationship, on your intimate relationships. In this case, it can be that the partner is releasing from you. If you had the case of somebody being obsessed about you, they could be releasing actually. Maybe they talk to your sibling and your sibling explains something, but anyway, the focus is more on you now. and you're focusing on your income, on your skills, on your business. You spend money on you. Um, yeah, because Venus, the ruling of rules your ascendant. So spend money on you. It could be also on your health, because Venus is ruling your health, and not so much on your beloved. So this is a time in your relationship, and you need to get your needs met, and your um, and in the emotional ending can be from your partner. Okay, and this can be a crisis. It can be like somebody leaves you. Okay, somebody leaves you. Somebody said, I cannot anymore. I need my space, my time, my this, my that, and this is a crisis for you. But as they go away, you feel so much relieved that you almost are ashamed to admit how relieved you feel without your partner. This is a crisis in itself for you, because you have been maybe identifying yourself with your relationship, or something very, or that the relationship was like a sibling to you, and now it ends. Um, Gemini ascendant. So, Gemini ascendant, Scorpio is in your sixth house. You could be letting go, in the worst cases, of a pet. Okay, a pet could be dying, but also you could be letting go of certain expenses you've had on your health. So you could be getting healthy, but due to a crisis. And all of this emphasizes your mental health. This is your physical health. So it can be that you were diagnosed with some physical ailment, and you try to treat it, and it cost a lot of money. And then you realize with this Pluto square in the notes, oh my gosh, this actually pertains to certain trauma that I've had in my life. And now you tend to treat that. And it doesn't cost so much money. Okay, and you're letting go of expenses. But this can also mean you're letting go of your income because of something, because you have to tend to a mental issue. So you understand, if you're having a disease, you understand it is not um, just physical. You're letting go of this worldview, but it can be a crisis that gets you to understand that. Okay, on the body mind level, you tend more to the mind. And with Taurus, it can be something to do with sensuality. Okay, I will not be fooling you. Maybe you have had sexual abuse that affected your body, but the effects are also on the psyche. Because here, Taurus is about your sensuality, sensual pleasure, be, food, maybe eating. Okay, maybe you've been trying to do the right that, the right this or that, right that, and you cannot, and you see something is going on, reaching a dead end, and your worldview is changing. Now you understand that the effect that something like this had on your mental health. And why your physical health? Maybe it's something to do with the womb, with the blood, with the reproductive system. And you understand this is not physical. This is not physical. Yes, I've been through this so and so and so. It's affecting me mentally, and it's not treated just physically. And with Venus in your with your ascendant, you are your own doctor. In this case, you are your own doctor. You are your own healer. It's not I will go to the doctor and it will be okay. Pluto is in the sign of decentralization, a sextile in Neptune. Okay, Pluto in your ninth house or your worldview, and Neptune in your 10th house. your career. Some decentralization is needed for you to heal. If you concentrate your power in science, Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is already retrograde, so you question the power. Or you could have been surviving the vaccine, but not only the vaccine. It can be many things. Okay, anything to do. You understand that the doctors are not reliable in here. Even if they have the best of intentions, you've been putting too much power in the hands of scientists and doctors, especially medical doctors here with Neptune. Okay, maybe psychiatrists, maybe psychologists, but here I don't suspect psychologists so much because the sixth house is physical health, and we usually go to the psychologist for mental health. In this case, you understand, I am my own healer, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, not anybody. No one knows me better. No one has the power over you. Okay, no one has the power over you. You understand that. Whatever these people say, however well meaning they are, they will not be there when you are on your deathbed. No God will look at you and say, "Oh, were you kind to the gods of mental health care? Were you kind to your doc?" Nobody will be judging you of whether you listen to the doctor or not. And if the doctor was mistaken, nobody but you can understand that that's not what works for you and you need something else. Ascendant Cancer. So this eclipse happens in your fifth house and towards your 11th. You're going to be more of a public figure, more goals and dreams, less fun and games. And this is emotional for you. Okay? Because Mars is with your ascendant, you might feel this on your body. You might feel this letting go, that you're getting your goals and dreams met, but there's a crisis where it looks like you're losing all the fun in the process. You can be letting go of a certain romantic partner, or your children are moving out. And now you can chase your golden dreams, but it's a crisis of letting go of your children. Yeah, maybe they're moving out. That can also be a change of the relationship. This emotional, very emotional separation. Okay? But the up is that you're going, your goals and dreams. And you could be getting premonitions with Venus in your 12th of how to do this. Because Venus is well aspected in your 12th. What do you do for fun? Okay? And how does that affect your body? What do you do for fun? Maybe you had certain vices that you did. Maybe you gambled, maybe you smoked, maybe, or the way that you were being meeting your romantic needs, your sexual needs, or your inner child needs. Okay, maybe you were buying ice cream for your child, although with Rahu and Taurus, it's the other way around. But maybe you were buying ice cream for your inner child, and you're like, okay, now there's this crisis here, and I cannot do this anymore. And the crisis is about mutual resources. So, if you've been doing fun on a grant that's about to be over, but so that you really do your work in the 11th. You might be tending towards crowdfunding. Pluto squaring the nodes is in your eighth house. Something you've been doing for fun has been dictated more by trauma than by actual desire to enjoy things. And now you've been thinking about, okay, stop playing around and starting to commit to your social life, to your agenda, to your dreams and goals. Okay. Now we can also have the chance to begin to get at what was this trauma. What was this trauma that got you to the situation that you've been doing this for fun? It's affected literally. It can be if you have a penis, it can be your penis. Okay, maybe you've been smoking too much or you've been eating food. In here, I think it's actually oily food or salty food, food that badly affects the blood. And what is blood? Okay, blood is the only thing that keeps us, you know. So if you have a penis, it could be menstrual system, but something in your body, you feel it physically in your body. Now you can no longer do fun. Okay? And in this situation of because of a certain trauma, Pluto that you had, Pluto in Aquarius, certain trauma that you had even at birth, then what you've been doing for fun is actually not really fun for your body. And as you're getting at that, you'll be doing less fun in games and more of activism. So you are also, just like Gemini Ascendant, you're also one of these people that could have been discovering that sexual trauma or psychological trauma had affected um, their well-being, um, and, and now you become activist either regarding that or regarding what needs to be changed, or in favor of a more sensual experience of your body that touches your psyche innerly, that affects your dreams. Um, and you will be getting premonitions and dreams on what to do and how to do, uh, that is more focused on using sensuality to balance your nervous system in here, rather than sexing yourself to erectile dysfunction or um, doing things that harm your reproductive system and your blood flow. Ascendant Leo. Ascendant Leo, this is happening in your seventh house. Now, in your, uh, you said Mercury retrograde. Oh my God. Ascendant Leo. So 2, 3, 4. Fourth house. Fourth house. So for you, like previous ascendants, it's time to get your ass out of the house and start doing career. You've been doing that already, okay? It's a cycle. So there's an emotional ending for you at home. Yes, somebody could be dying, but also not necessarily. You could just leave home and move in favor of career. Mars, the ruler of this eclipse, is in your 12th house. So, for the sake of your own mental well being, it's time for you to focus a bit more on your career and a bit less on home. Maybe you have been a mama or a daddy that's been a stay at home dad, a stay at home mom, and I've realized that you have over glorified this to a fault, and now it affects your mental health, and now you must be more active in your career. Um, or you get a promotion, and something along those lines. It's time for you to shine in a more visible public sphere, and uh, letting home go for a bit. You deserve this. Letting home go for a bit. Um, let the dead go now. Now you need to be, and for you, maybe you're one of the only ascendants for whom to actually do more on your career at this point in time. I know you're a fixed sign. You don't like to hear this, but let's say at this point in time, doing more, focusing more on your career will help your mental health. That changes as the nodes change sign, as the transits. So, but for now, it's better to work to heal your psyche. You're one of the only ascendants for whom it's going to work, because usually what they say, the kind of here we call it ripui b'isuk, healing with doing by doing something or by working. We call it Arbeit macht nicht, the Arbeit macht frei, you know. So it's usually a working camp. But no, for you, when you do this in your terms in a way that is nourishing and healthy for you it actually can help. For now, ascendant Virgo. Ascendant Virgo, so third house, ninth house, with Rahu in the ninth. There's no question about it. Either you end a certain relationship with a sibling or a certain quarrel you had with a sibling that affected your social, not your social, you in the public sphere. Maybe someone who was like a colleague to you, that was also someone you were seen with in large groups. Maybe you were working with your brother, your sister, a neighbor. Now you're no longer associated with this person as much. Not necessarily at all, but it is because either you're traveling, either you're studying something new. Okay? And what is this for you? If I said for Pisces ascendant, the abroad becomes the neighborhood. So for Virgo ascendant, okay, the neighborhood, okay, the neighborhood becomes the abroad. Whoops, the neighborhood becomes the abroad. Okay. So you could be studying something new, moving abroad for studies. You could be, yeah, studying something new, moving abroad for studies. Changing your religion, changing my religion. So that can be getting into a new spiritual practice that's more embodied. With Taurus, it's more embodied. So um, that is less in the mind and more in the body. But then we will have Rahu in the sign of the mind, right? So it's all temporary. And last but not least, ascendant Libra. Um, this is happening in your second house, leading to your eighth. So either you're going to be more reliant on a significant other. Uh, you see, it's like you either you make money from your career, you let it go of making money from your career, you letting go of your career, your boss, you become the boss. I don't know, but the income for you, or you are making money more from investments now. Now you're putting your money in investments. Okay, you're letting you go of your money and you invest it now. Where do you invest it? Abroad. Okay, so invest money abroad. It can also be a situation where you feel less secure because second house is our values. You're letting go of your valuables so you can feel insecure a bit. And it's part of the process of investments and risk taking. So Um, that can be the case for you. Um, Keto is about to hit your sign, so you're thinking less about you and more about your significant other. So you begin to understand that when you invest, it is less about you. Okay, and this is why and how you separate from that money. This is an emotional understanding, letting go emotionally for all values that you had of self-sustainability values. You have Saturn in your sixth house and Neptune. You've becoming to understand the times where you ideated your ability to work, and that when you invest, it's not just about you. Um, so that can be one of the cases. You're letting go of certain valuables that you have, possessions. Maybe you're putting something in a trust abroad. Okay, maybe in gold with the sun in Taurus, maybe in gold it's in the banks abroad. We gotta be cautious with that. Um, your health with Saturn, you have to tend to your health. You're not that able-bodied anymore. Okay, you're not like, yeah. You know, with Scorpio in the second house, you may have believed that you will forever be able to transform every ailment, every this, every that, and work hard, and whatever you desire, you will get it, depending on the chart. And for many years, that was true. But when Ketu is with this place and is about to go to your, to your ascendant, you understand that there are times in life, they're not necessarily permanent, but there are times in life when you cannot rely on your ability to go out there and work and make money from your skill. You, that it's constricted, that it's limited. And for these cases, we need to invest and we need to um, have a social support system. So your worldview, it's not just abroad, but your worldview. Okay, Venus, point of women, worldview, your view of women, and investing in them. Women in society, the role of women in society. Because ninth house is your worldview. Venus crossing there, oh, now you think about women. What is your worldview about women? And it's related to your eighth house. Venus is ruling your eighth house. So inherit generational wealth and women. You're thinking about all these things now, and you understand that you won't always be able-bodied and be able to survive anything. Because Scorpio, however worried they are about survival, they put themselves through this test of I can survive this, I can survive that, I can survive that. And here you may have been living with minimalism, but your health requires something different. Maybe, and with Neptune at the end of Pisces, maybe you believe that this drug will save you, and you understand that you actually are more reliant on external resources, whether not just necessarily for drugs, but it's like, hey, now there's this restriction over literally over your feet here. So you can't walk anywhere, you can't this, you can't that. Then now you have to drive. Now you need a driver, for example, to go from place to place. Okay, Saturn rules your third house. Now you need a driver, now you need a pilot. Okay, assisted flight. And now you get that this minimalism that you thought whatever, with the Scorpio you get this a lot. And people say I live on potatoes and apples, and I know that if something happens, I can live on potatoes and apples in the sea, in the middle of nowhere, and I'll save. And this is how you save. And it's those sometimes, and sometimes that's what you need to do. Sometimes this is work, this is the work you have to do. But sometimes you understand that however much you've been saving for your retirement, now if you can't really walk too much, it's literally what it signifies, darling. You can't really walk too much. Okay, it's defeat. Or your breathing is restricted. I need a freaking airplane to get you to place. You need a driver. You need a car that's adjusted to you. Well, now you rely more on the government. Now you rely more on a significant other. Now you rely on the budget of other people. And this can be very emotional. For you, I predict this to be one of the most emotional. Because it's you spending money because you can't really, move that fast. Alternatively, you have a pet and you're spending money on this pet. And now you need help, you need funding, or you need to take from your savings. But here it's not take from your savings, put in the savings, so you're investing, okay? So you're not unwealthy here, but you also get to the point where you physically understand why do people need certain help. You physically understand that to get from place to place when you're restricted costs a lot of money. Okay, because Scorpio is second house, is thinking narrow and deep. You think about one thing very, very deeply, but there's this other thing that's just a couple of frequencies away that never even crossed your mind. You're like, I was thinking about everything, but then you weren't thinking about you're not being able to walk all that much. Now what? Okay, so here it's in favor of investment. So your income is something that you invest. They can be gold. They can be something unusual about the investment with Uranus and your worldview. Now you think about Venusian things, so you think about valuables. It can also be think about valuables, about finances, about sensual pleasure. You can also be thinking about women. Okay, but women regarding of investments and generational wealth of women and so on and so forth. So 555. I'll end this now, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye. Oh, and of course you can subscribe to me. My PayPal is made to love magic one, strudel@gmail.com. So if you're interested in um, donating, that's a possibility. I don't have this fancy button, but that is something that you can now do, I reckon. So yeah, and if you have a tip or about international accounting, then that would be useful too. Bye bye.